Okay, so this happened to me, 27-year-old female, and my boyfriend, 24-year-old male, about 2 years ago in the middle of the night. I decided to post it because it haunts me to this very day, and I still have nightmares about it. It was about 2 a.m. one night in September. We live about 25 minutes out of town in northern British Columbia, Canada, and our house is surrounded by the woods. Because it's such a dead road, usually we pull out of the driveway and then turn on our lights. Why? I don't know. Weird habit. We both would do it. So I'm driving. I pull out to go left down the road and turn on the high beams. Then we see it. In the road is this weird, hairless, pale humanoid creature, crouching in the middle of the road. It almost seemed to be glowing, but that was probably because it was such a pale white, and I hadn't turned off my high beams. It whipped its head at us, as if it was surprised by our lights turning on. After a second, it shambles across the rest of the road in jerky movements and down into the ditch, which was about 3 feet deep. But that's not it. We both watched as it went down into the ditch, turned around to face us, and it stood up on its back legs. Exactly like a human, but not quite. Except it stood over 5 feet higher than the ditch, taller than our car at the time. And remember, the ditch is already 3 feet deep, so this creature was over 7 feet tall. It looked aggressive, hunched at the shoulder and leaning forward slightly, as if to look at the car. And I swear I made eye contact with it. No, it was not watching us drive by. It wasn't looking at the car. It was looking through the window, and it was looking right at me. Whatever it was intelligent and knew that the car wasn't moving by itself. It knew we were inside. I drove so slowly, turning my head and keeping eye contact with it as we drove past, and it did the same, craning its neck to watch me leave. My boyfriend couldn't see it past me at that point. Eventually, it's out of my vision and I look back at the road. We are both completely silent. I'm driving less than 10 kilometers an hour, having taken my foot off the gas when I saw something in the road. To this day, I don't really tell people because the people I tell just laugh it off, or try to explain it as an albino starving bear or something. Now, this year his parents were visiting just before winter hit. They have a dog. Me and his mom were having a smoke on the deck, which is about 6 feet off the ground. It's dusk, not much light. We were on the left side of the deck, the same side we turn on the road to go to town. You can see the patch of woods where the creature would have been before, so this instant happened in the same little area. I hear a bunch of cracking twigs, just as the dog goes nuts. He's a small boy, so we're surprised when he almost jumps off the deck to run into the woods. My boyfriend comes out just in time, and we see, just beyond some trees so it's obscured, a tall, lanky white form. But we couldn't see anything else definitive, and his mom has terrible eyesight and didn't have glasses. I know it was the same creature. I got this twisting feeling in my gut. I decided to share on the subreddit because if anything, at least some people will believe me. We don't leave our house at night. Maybe it's weird, but I want to see it again. There's such a huge difference, man. I used to think, wow, these stories are so cool, I believe in them. It was nothing compared to the odd terror I felt when I made eye contact with something I'm positive is not natural. So this started a few years ago. When I was younger, I used to hit this tree with my hatchet, and then one time when it was getting darker, I was in fear. I didn't know why I was. So then I was going back inside my house and looked back at the tree, and saw a thing I thought was a person, but they were gray, tall, hairless, and prowling low to the ground, as it was looking at me. Then around a few months later, I was going to the bathroom at night, and looked out the window. I saw it looking at me, and when I made eye contact, it bolted away. I just went back in my room. And then another time when my friend came and stayed the night. We were outside at night, and there was no moon. So we started hearing something moving in the forest, and started making noises and throwing stuff at it, and was putting out this terrible smell. After a while, we got scared out of nowhere and we went inside. And then one more time when my friends came out to stay the night again, there was also no moon. So we were playing hide and seek outside in the dark, and me and one of my friends were hiding in this garage-type shed, and it's open on two sides. We were waiting for the seeker, and I was hiding behind a metal plate leaned against the wall, so I could see the door they were supposed to come out of. I heard footsteps come from behind the wall I was on, coming from the woods, and the footsteps crunch in the gravel getting closer, and I saw the foot of the thing into the shed, and right as I did, my friend comes out of the door and the thing runs away. And this is the last time. The other day, my friends came out for the day, and the moon was not out again, and I was with one of my friends trying to find my other friend that ran off. And when we finally thought we found him, because we were hearing footsteps in the leaves, we got closer and started calling out to him. And as we got closer, he comes out of nowhere and says not to go any further. He's been hearing noises for a while, and then the noises started happening again across the road. We ignored his warning and got closer, and the noises sounded like they were the same distance. My friend was at the tree line, and I told him to come back to be with me and my other friend. And then the noises started getting even closer. And at one point, I ran in place to sound like I was running, and it did it back. So if this sounds like a fleshgait, please let me know. Also, there is an Indian burial ground a few miles away. Let me start off by saying that I'm very into the paranormal. I've seen spirits since I was very young, and my friends think I'm actually psychic because I've had so many experiences. I like to research the paranormal, especially haunted places I live near. I used to live near a canyon that I spent a lot of time in, and I found an article about a group of kids that had an encounter with a skinwalker, which is what led me to want to go on a night hike with some friends. One of these friends was also interested in the paranormal, but as far as I know, didn't know any history about the canyon, and the other friend was a skeptic. I didn't tell them what I had learned, as I was pretty sure nothing would even happen during our hike. For context, both my friends I was with were very muscular, over 6 foot tall guys, and I'm a very tiny 5'1" girl. Now, on to the good stuff. It was late at night, and I went out to a hiking trail that my friends and I had hiked pretty much every week growing up. We knew this trail well, so just going by the light of the full moon, we didn't need flashlights. I was walking behind my two friends. We were talking quietly when we all heard what sounded like an elk being attacked. It was so loud, I swear it was almost right next to us. I can still hear that blood-curdling scream. We stood still for a while, waiting to see if we could hear movement from any animals. But when we didn't hear anything, we kept walking. There weren't really any predators up there. The only thing could be a mountain lion, but those were very rare. We walked for a few feet when we heard a large branch breaking. My friend that was leading froze, then yelled, "Fuck this, I'm out," and ran back to the car. My other friend and I didn't know what he was so freaked out about. Then my other friend goes, "Nope, I'm out," and books it back to the car. I didn't know what they were talking about until I heard another branch break in front of me, about 6 feet away. I turned to look and saw a large gray wolf staring at me, and then it shifts into a large dark-skinned man with some sort of animal pelt hood thing and glowing red eyes. I've never ran so fast in my life. I made it back to the car and we sped out of there. My friends told me that they all saw the wolf, which isn't native to where I live. I told them I saw the wolf and it turned into a man with red eyes. That was one of my scariest encounters with the paranormal, and I still can't explain it. I still firmly believe that I did come face to face with a skinwalker. I used to drive home on Rock House Road in Greenwood, South Carolina. It's locally famous for its creepy old house and the various backstories it's gained over the years. Not many people live along it, but I lived about 20 minutes down it at the time. The area seemed pretty safe because the second closest neighbors were a whole family of cops, about a mile down Breezewood Road. It was kinda creepy out in the country, but I used to go hike around and take pictures. Never saw any shapes, spooky animals, or anything weird. I even hung out at the rock house a couple times as a teen, and only saw turkeys in the trees. Anyhow, I was driving from my job one night, and as I'm going, my headlights are washing over the road and the sides by the ditch, and everything is pretty normal and boring. Anything a foot past the ditch is blackness. I got about 10 minutes down Rock House, and I saw something that will be with me until I die. On my left, I see a woman stand up from the ditch. She was wearing a dirty white dress, and her hair was black, tattered and long, and hung down the front of her dress. She was just crouching there for God knows how long, but when I drove by, she stood up and started walking towards the car. I only saw her for maybe 3 seconds, and in that time she spread her arms out, and I swear on everything I own that her arms were made of something like sticks in a bundle, and they jutted straight out from her shoulders, like a weird scarecrow, or it made me think of those old brooms that were just a bunch of sticks together. They were really, really long arms. I obviously hit the gas and drove even faster home. If I know one thing about seeing something weird out in the woods, you just don't let it see you long enough to remember your face. Never had another experience like that one, and lived down Rock House for years. If anyone knows what lady it might be that has stick for arms, I'd also like to find out why she does. My husband's friend Benji came to visit us at our cabin one weekend, while myself, husband, mom, cousin, and 2-month-old were staying there. The property is about 4 acres and backs up to the Nantahala National Forest on 3 sides. The cabin is off a dirt road that has campsites all down it, until you reach the main road on the other end. It's a long dirt road, so there are many free campsites. Benji planned on setting up camp down the road, and we convinced him to at least stay a day and camp in the parking area so he would be close. There's 0 cell service at the cabin and surrounding area. I put the baby down to sleep for the night, and we all sat on the porch, totally surrounded by woods. The moon was out, and there was enough cabin light to see all around the home. We were shooting the shit, telling jokes and old stories when, out of nowhere, even with us being loud and goofy, the deepest, angriest yell/growl came from the woods. I can only explain it as an unthinkably large man yelling in pure anger or absolute disgust. It was definitely on the property somewhere, but it wasn't close enough for us to see anything or hear footsteps or other movements. My cousin, a 55-year-old woman that grew up in the backwoods of Alabama, turned white as a sheet and ran inside to sit with the baby without saying a word. My husband quickly grabbed every gun we own and we stood quietly, without addressing what had just happened, totally freaked out. I was trembling. The hair on my neck stood straight up, and I was in the cliché mama bear protection mode. Not a minute later, I noticed something even scarier than the noise itself. Now, as a side note, the forest is loud during the summer in the southeast US, sometimes damn near deafening. The bugs are screaming, birds make noise at night sometimes, animals scurry around in the leaves, you get the idea. Well, after this thing yowled like I've never heard anything yell before, the forest was silent. I'm telling you, I could hear my heartbeat in my brain, it was so silent. Not a single peep from a bug, no critters moving, nothing dared make a noise after that thing made its presence known. We decided, after hearing what I can only describe as Lucifer incarnate, we should move our activities inside for the rest of the night and lock up tight. Even though the cabin is mostly made up of big windows for doors, not the safest thing ever. Benji decided to sleep on the couch as he was too terrified to go outside for the rest of the night. Probably a good call and a sentiment shared by us all. We researched noises of every animal known to that region, and even some that weren't native there. Nothing came even remotely close to what this sucker sounded like. We don't go to the cabin without rifles anyways, but we make sure to pack enough ammo to attempt to take down a demon from now on. Nothing has happened to us personally since, but I told my closest neighbor about it finally. I was afraid they would really think I was insane, and she told me it was Booger from Booger Hollow. She said her dad used to tell her the story while they were out camping, but she couldn't remember it. Guess we'll never know.